welcome to a new series on our channel, Life as the Dog Mistress. This is called Cocktails and Conversations. I got a lot of feedback from local folks about the gems that we have in Columbia and that I need to get out and see some of them and chat with them. And so we're here today at Dave Griggs Flooring America with not only the owner extraordinaire of this fine business, but one of the most lovely people that I know. This is Michele Batye. You probably know her. And so they are open for business, so you might hear, people talking about flooring or the doorbell dinging, which is all wonderful things. When you own a small business, you want to hear that a lot. So the purpose of this is just to kind of get to know people in Columbia a little bit better and for us to kind of enjoy some conversation over cocktails. And so I'm going to plug this only because people will not know, and a lot of people don't know anything about apparently Inside the Actors Studio with James Lipton. I've been watching it a lot lately. Some of these questions may have come from me looking at his interviews. In fact, there's a series of questions at the end that he asks all the celebrities, and so I'm going to try to emulate that. So this is our maiden voyage for this type of episode, and so we're going to just see how it goes. So thanks, Michele, for being willing to jump in on it.
I love new things.
Awesome. Well, the first thing I have to say is we did make a fun cocktail. So one of the things when I contact folks and say, hey, would you be willing to do this? I'm going to actually make a cocktail. And then you get to pick. And Michele said, I want some sort of a coffee cocktail. And so super simple cocktail, very strong espresso. It is a little bit of sweetened condensed milk, some chocolate syrup, and of course rum. So we're just going to enjoy these little cocktails and we're going to chat. So, Michele, tell me, what do you love about Columbia?
What do I love about Columbia? Well, it's my hometown. So actually I grew up about 30 miles north of here in Hallsville. And so Columbia, as a young adult, I probably always thought I would get away. And as I went through the University of Missouri, I learned more things about what I loved about Columbia. And so I think it is just that hometown feeling, and I think that I hear that from outsiders as well, that it's a friendly town, but it's got the feel of a large city. So I mean, if you want art, you've got art. If you want athletics, you've got athletics. If you want to go hide, you can go hide. So I think it's the best of both worlds. We don't, every time I go to the larger cities and I have to sit in that traffic, I just think, we've got it good, and we've got, 4 seasons. We're getting ready to have a great fall. So I just really love Missouri, and I think Columbia is the best place to be.
I could not agree more. We're not native Columbians, but have that same feel. It's the best of both worlds. Both Van and I grew up in small towns, love feeling like you can go anywhere, do anything, navigate it easily, but then, like you said, has all the culture and the sports, all the opportunities that we didn't have in small rural towns, but still that feeling of safety and that feeling of community, and that you can just make friends. This is probably the place where we've made the fastest, closest friends of any place we've lived. And as adults, it sometimes gets harder if you're moved to find adult friends that have the same interests and that want to do things, and especially because we don't have children, we don't have that natural getting into the school system and all that.
Exactly.
But Columbia has been amazing for that. So Columbia is loved by folks that have grown up here and folks that just come in here. So Michele, tell me who has been a big influence on you.
A big influence on me. So lots of people. So I think growing up, probably my grandparents, especially my grandmother. My grandmother was not your typical grandmother. She ran the farm. She was a great cook. I can remember her spreading out newspapers all over the table and getting out the catalog and cutting patterns and making dresses and different things. And so it was almost, we went there every week. So my mother was one of 6 children. Okay. My dad was one of 9, so come from a big family. And so we went to my grandmother's every weekend, and it was like we were on a different learning path every weekend. It wasn't just, oh gosh, I don't want to go to grandma's. It was, we were learning about puppies, or we were learning about chickens, or we were learning how to sew, or we were pulling taffy. So she was a big influence, and my parents, of course, were a big influence. As an adult, I would say, of course, Dave Griggs was a mentor of mine for many, many years. As far as, there's lots of women in the community I look up to. So Susan Hart comes to mind. You know, I think there's Karen Taylor. There's a lot of women that forged the way in their industries, and I just really look up to them. And you know, I kind of take bits and pieces from lots of people. I mean, if you keep your eyes open, you see, you know, great things in so many leaders in Columbia.
Well, it's awesome. Your grandma sounds like she was quite the Renaissance woman. And, you know, I think I'm all about looking forward, but I think that we talk about women and moving forward and new opportunities, and sometimes, you know, we've stalled out. But then I think if we look back generationally, it's true. You know, they were rock stars in their own right, and they were taking care of business, but we just didn't have a label to put on that, and we had really nothing to compare it to. So I think, you know, I also really love hearing stories about grandparents that were just super influential, because I think, you know, there was a lot going on that they would be seen as amazing rock stars now, and it was just a way of life for them.
Yep, exactly.
There was no intention of getting famous for it, or going down some sort of successful career path. It was survival and enjoying the life that you had. So
exactly.
That's awesome. So I'm going to ask you a little bit more of a thoughtful question as far as the big picture. So what would you like to be known for when you think about, you know, how people see you, or what touch you are leaving on your community? What do you want to be known for?
So I guess my word that comes to mind would be grace. I would just like to be thought as graceful. And, you know, I look at a lot of ladies out there that are doing it very gracefully. And just, I don't think you have to step on anyone to get anywhere. You just have to, you know, have your own goals and set your own goals and just keep towards them, and everyone else can be reaching their goals at the same time. So I think that's one of the biggest thing that I love about Columbia and the group of women, and you know, I'm part of Women's Network, is that everyone is just building each other up. And so just that is what I would like to be known for the most, is just that mentorship, that if I helped someone else along.
That's awesome. I love that. So we're going to also do a shameless plug for the Columbia Chamber of Commerce Women's Network, which we're both members of. It really is a lot of communities of women. You don't find the genuine interest in building each other up, especially in a business community, and that is every bit of what I feel. And as someone that has a lot of obligations, you know, making a choice to be a part of that is super valuable, or I wouldn't do it.
Well, and I think you touched on it. As adults, it's hard to make friends. And I think as women, especially, it's hard to make friends as adults. And so I really feel like, you know, it's a big, scary place. We hear that a lot when you first go to a luncheon. But I feel like that the people that they really bond and make long-lasting friendships.
I would agree totally. Well, one of the things that I so love is your love story with your husband. You know, it is obvious that you two just adore each other. And you've been married for how many years?
It'll be 25 years in April.
Okay, and so that's, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, that's not always the case these days. And so could you just tell me a little bit about what you love so much about him? I follow him on social media and stuff, so there are many things I love about him, mainly the food that he cooks at their house. And then a secret or something, a piece of advice you would give to somebody who is maybe, trying to figure out the world of relationships, which I also have been married for 20 plus years, and I'm really glad I don't have to do that now.
Exactly.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I like to say I met my husband the old-fashioned way in a bar. So.
Yeah, it is. Isn't that interesting that now that's the old-fashioned way?
Actually, we met through a mutual friend. So, yes, Jim and I have been together for 27 years since our first date. I think gosh, let's see. The things that I love about him most is, I would say, that he's supportive. He's so supportive of everything I do. Always builds me up, and but at the same time, he doesn't let me take myself seriously. He's funny. He sometimes the humor of an 8th grade boy. Which most of our husbands do. He is very, very passionate about the things he loves. He's very spiritual. What a lot of people don't know is he does a lot of ministry on the side. And that's just something that he was not really, well, he had some training, but he kind of just took it upon himself once and kind of just learned everything he could about spirituality, and just kind of is self-taught and really is a good mentor to a lot of people. So I love that about him. Ours is kind of an unconventional love story. When I met Jim, he had three young children, and I fell in love with all of them. So I like to say that it's our 25th anniversary for us, but it's actually our 25th anniversary for all of us, because we all got married that day. So we all stood on that altar and we all got married. And so now I have not only 3 kids, but they're all married or have significant others, and they each have a child. So 3 beautiful grandchildren. And Jim and I think the secret, we're just best friends. There's nobody that I'd rather hang out with, and we like doing the same things, whether that just be hanging out at the house, whether that be, going and exploring different things. Sometimes I have to push him out of his comfort zone. Sometimes he has to push me out of my comfort zone, but we just work together like that. And I think advice. I think the best advice is, look inward to yourself, because a lot of times we like to look at the flaws of our mates, but we're not looking at the flaws of ourselves. So, when I walk past that towel and have to straighten it, then I need to think about, well, look at my closet, or what are those things that I'm doing that are his pet peeves. So I think it's just, cohabitating together. I know that's kind of the hardest thing to learn as you get into a relationship. And so it's just letting go of the small things for the big things. And so there's just nobody else I'd rather spend my time with than him.
That's awesome. I love it. So now we're going to get into the super James Lipton quick answers. So Michelle,
I feel like we need the lounge chairs.
There you go, the lounge chairs. I'm going to let you get a sip or two. See, also, this is the beauty, apparently I'm going to find out, is when I have everybody else talking, I can drink exponentially faster. And so that might be a good or bad thing as things go on. So what's your favorite word?
What's my favorite word? Can I use that word?
You can give us a sense of what it's going to be. I'm sure Amy can figure out how to bloop it or bleep it or whatever.
So I do have some of those favorite words, but let's see. That is so my favorite word is probably, I'm going to go with optimism, because I think that I came from a family that had one very optimistic parent and one not so optimistic parent. And so, learning over the years just that optimism is the best thing. It's that just, there's no reason to look at the other side of it. Let's just we got to keep going. So let's just look at the good things.
I love it. What's your least favorite word?
My least favorite word. My least favorite word would probably be, my least favorite word would have to be average. I don't want to be average. Like, average is not good enough. And I think that just comes from my internal, but I was working with my coach one day, and we were doing things. He's my business coach, and I was working with one thing, and he's like, "How did you score on that?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm average." And he's like, "What are you gonna do about that?" I'm like, "Well, I'm either gonna fail or I'm gonna be really good, but not gonna be average."
I like it. That's good. That's good. Ready? Okay. So what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
So I went to the University of Missouri, graduated with a textile and apparel merchandising degree. So I've always loved fashion. So I think, I would say mixing that with the interior design, I would love to be on Broadway making all of the scenery. So that would be a great job. Like, I used to sneak into the university concert series. Robert would let me in to kind of see the back whenever they were setting up, because it's just so intriguing, like how it's just that plain stage, and then all of a sudden and they can travel with it, and it's just, I would love to go out and buy those things and make that world.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. So what profession would you not like to participate in?
Oh gosh, what profession would I not like to participate in? So, God love them. We have a lot of great teachers. My daughters are teachers, but I would not. I just don't think I could make it as a teacher. I mean, they have to have so many skills, and they put so much heart in it, and so much time. I think, and like a small business owner, so much time after the hours, they're, working on work plans. I can remember when my daughter first started teaching, and she would be like hours into the night. I would call her, and she'd be working on lesson plans. I'd be like, don't they just have a book for that? No.
Exactly.
Like, start your own business, right?
Right. But the beautiful thing is, she was probably really trying to figure out how to engage with her students and make whatever she was teaching some sort of context that they could grab onto.
Absolutely.
And those are the types of people, like you've talked about, business mentors and other people that you have really found to be people. Your grandmother, for instance, you said like every weekend was a different class on a different topic, and so they have to be creative and entertaining, and the list goes on and on. So I agree with you. I think teaching is definitely a hard job.
I have a cousin that's a 4th grade teacher here in Columbia, and she often posts pictures of her kids coming back after they graduated, and just the fact that they come back and see her, and they want, she's left such an impression on their life that they just keep coming back to see her, and she's so proud of them. They realize what impact she made on their life.
It's awesome. And so and to me, the best teachers teach us that we all have the ability to make an impact on others.
Absolutely.
And so that kind of goes back to your whole personal philosophy, so I love that. So last question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear at the pearly gates?
Welcome comes to mind. So I do believe heaven exists, and I think that, what would I like to hear? So I guess all of those that have gone before me, just, they're welcome, arms around me, barks of dogs we've lost, purrs of kittens that we've lost. I think just that welcome. And I think heaven a lot is also what memory you leave behind.
I love that. That's great. It reminded me of the commercial, the Tiger checking commercial, where if you're a Tiger fan, like the big party, as you come up there, as every new person comes to the gate, the debit card goes in, and all the confetti and everything. That's awesome. Well, Michele, I cannot thank you enough for spending a little of your time with me today. In my view, you are definitely a rock star in Columbia and beyond. You have shown me nothing but grace and friendship, and I I can't imagine having a more perfect person to share my first cocktails and conversations with. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you fixing me this lovely coffee cocktail. I love your optimism. I love you're always trying to make Columbia and the world a better place.
Oh,
and
thanks.
so, and I always love your and Van's support. Every time I call you guys, you're always do whatever needs to be done to help me. So I appreciate
It
that.
takes us all to make it go
Yeah,
around,
it
doesn't
does.
it? Awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks. We're going to wrap up this episode. I would love to hear if you know somebody that's awesome in Columbia that I may not have on my list. I would love to hear from you about who that might be. I'm also willing to travel around the state. I think Missouri is a pretty awesome place to be. So if you have ideas or thoughts about who I should contact and have interview with, have a little cocktails and conversations, I'd love to hear it. Please subscribe to my channel, follow all my social media. All the information is in the description. Obviously, you can also follow Dave Griggs Flooring America. Are you all, I know Facebook, Instagram.
Facebook, Instagram, have a great Pinterest page.
Woo!
So.
I'm going to have to look that up. At any rate, thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you soon. There you go.
All right.
Thank you, ma'am. That was awesome.